Their whole world is just going to be a mystery instead of an exciting place. As my old professor Carl Sagan said, when you're in love, you want to tell the world. So,
I think it's interesting that Bill Nye makes this point there. When you're in love with something, you just want to tell the world. Yet in just a few moments, and you'll hear it, and we'll touch on it then, but he wants to tell the parents not to teach your kids about creation, not to teach their kids about God. Yet he doesn't understand this is a God that we love. I love Jesus. I want to tell the world. That's why I'm taking this time right now to respond to a video like this. I want to tell the world about Jesus. We were told this as part of the Great Commission. It really troubles me that he takes this type of stance, and he talks about that creationism, and when you believe in this type of stuff, it makes it complex and not workable and all that sort of thing. And we'll touch on those points as he says them. But I want to go to the first thing, and this is what a lot of either atheists or evolutionary scientists really don't get. The days where Christians would say that I just believe and that's it, God says that I believe it, that settles it. Yeah, that's true, but we're told to explore. We're told and taught to explore God's universe. And what I want to point out, maybe this will give a little bit of clarification to what we believe here, but let me read out of Romans 1:19 through 20. It says, "But because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse." Now, I think it's interesting. I think that Scripture actually reaches out 1900 years in the future here, at least from when Romans was written, and actually reaches out and anticipates the evolutionary argument that believes that there's no God with what we just read here. It says that God made it evident, His creation, to them. It says that we can understand that He's made it clearly seen, that we're able to understand Him through what has been made. So again, the logical leap here is we study what's been made in order to grow closer to God. See, sometimes we Christians are seen, and sometimes we Christians act in this weird, abstract, spiritual world, and we don't want to connect, and we're seen as we don't want to connect to the real world. Look, Bill, I love you, but 1995 called and wants its debate point back, okay? Because the thing is, it's 2012. We have answered this call. We have answered this challenge, man. We've answered this type of attack on Christianity, an attack on Christian-based science, Christian worldview lens type science, where we look at this world through it being God's creation. And it says this, it says we're clearly without excuse. Okay, here's another passage out of Proverbs 25:2. It says, "It's the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings." See, God is challenging humanity to search out the things that He's concealed of Himself that's wrapped up into His creation. It really troubles me when this isn't understood. Yes, Christians need to be in every area of science and of study, because we believe that there is a designer who designed and who also designed us to discover that design. I think it's a powerful thing when we understand points like that. But let's go ahead and let's take it a step further here. This is Dr. Rosalind Picard. She comes out of MIT. She says this. She says, "As I've learned more, my scientific method has informed my faith. It has informed my faith because I'm very analytical and I question things constantly. You have to be careful as a scientist, however, that you don't fall into the trap that a lot of atheists fall into. They just assume that God must be provable or disprovable by science, and let me add, by science alone. In fact, some of them assume that the only things that are true are things science shows. Ironically, what they're doing is claiming, dogmatically, that they have the only way to truth, science. But science within itself cannot prove the correctness of its own methods. You've got to, if you could just hear and feel the power in that statement. Again, that's the challenge when scientists, evolution or creationists, to be fair, jump out of science and move into the realm of philosophy where they don't belong. But I want to read that statement again. It says, ironically, what they are doing is dogmatically claiming that they have the only way to truth, that being science, but science within itself cannot prove the correctness of its own methods. It cannot prove its claim to be the only way to truth. Science cannot prove most events of history, but does that mean they didn't happen? To believe that God is explainable by science is to completely mischaracterize God. But let's go on just a step further and see what's next in store for us here.
Once in a while I get people that claim they don't believe in evolution. And my response generally is, well, why not? Really, why not? Your world just becomes fantastically complicated when you don't believe in evolution. I mean, you hear these ancient dinosaur bones or fossils. Here is radioactivity. Here are distant stars that are just like our star, but that are at a different point in their life cycle. The idea of deep time, of this billions of years, explains so much of the world around us. If you try to ignore that, your worldview just becomes crazy. It's just untenable. It's self-inconsistent.
Wow, so many points here to touch on. I think the first one is, it's so funny that when people tell me they believe in evolution, my first question to them is why? Really? Why do you believe in evolution? Let's touch on a few points here. Again, we talked about that just throw some stuff on the wall and see what sticks. You know, the thing that's, I guess, troubling to me about this, it's a 2.5-minute clip where he can keep us busy, and I say us being Christians. Bill Nye and people of that type of mindset can keep us busy for quite a while, because now we're in a defensive mode. But here's the thing. Creation has no problem with dinosaur bones or fossils. We've got our own response to them. Search out, there's plenty. Apologetics Press is a great launch point. Look at places like RZIM or Renewing Your Mind, or, oh gosh, there's so many, and look at the end of the blog. I'll go ahead and post some links on there where you can check. But there's so many responses from a creation standpoint on dealing with dinosaur bones and fossils. Here's the next one, radioactivity. I don't know where he gets off saying that we have a problem with radioactivity. Okay, it's there. That's fine. That's science. Great. Let's have some science discussions on this. Don't know how that really works as an argument against Christianity or creationism. Different stars at different points in their life cycles. Again, not a problem. I think there's a larger discussion there. Too much for this video series. I'm just going to attack the presuppositions here. But there's a great discussion to be had, and there's many Christian scientists that are even talking about it. And let's get even away from Christian scientists. You got David Berlinski, who's a secular Jew. He argues about stuff like this. He's got great books and great resources that are out. The last one is Deep Time. I think these type of conversations are fantastic. There are old earth creationists, and there's young earth. I think there's a great discussion that be had there. But the point is that he's making is, or the implication is that creationists don't have a response to all this, when in fact we do. The time for creationists' heads to be stuck in the ground is way long gone. That's what I said. You know, you're talking about 20 or 30 years in the past on these type of arguments here. But this is, again, just one of those ploys where they just want to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But let's go on. He talks about creationism being untenable and not realistic and that sort of thing. I love this quote from Dr. Henry Morris in his book, Unlocking the Mysteries of Creation. Talk about so complex and not understandable. This is his attack launch against evolution. By the way, none of these are answered yet. It says this: unknown chemicals in the primordial past, through unknown processes which no longer exist, produce unknown life forms which are not to be found but could, through unknown reproduction methods, spawn life in an unknown atmospheric composition, in an unknown oceanic soup complex, at an unknown time and place. That's a heck of a lot of unknowns. That's a heck of a lot of assumptions leading into your own worldview. Creationism untenable? I give you Exhibit A. Unknown, 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 unknown. I think evolution is untenable. I think evolution is unrealistic. I think it has some difficult steps that it needs to take before it actually reaches a place of anywhere being called a fact or something that needs to be believed. It's challenging to my understanding. I don't get it. Let me just put it that way. I don't get it when the evolutionary scientific community keeps such a tight rein on this that they're actually afraid of creationism. Don't let them fool you. It's not that creationism is a waste of time. It's not that type of study is a waste of time. That's a ploy. That's a lie. They're afraid because they're losing ground, they're losing face, and they're having such a challenge trying to keep people believing in what they believe in by faith, by the way, as our good doctor earlier who opened up Origin of Species for us told us. And again, it's amazing how 150 years in the future, or almost 200, I guess, we're still having those same challenges of all these unknowns and of evolution being based upon faith in an unproved theory. Let's keep going just a little bit forward here.